Chechen military units loyal to Ramzan Kadyrov have declared their readiness to deploy to Iran if the United States launches a ground invasion. That is what Press TV reported on March 31st. The claim has not been confirmed by Moscow, by the Chechen government, or by any independent source. Press TV said the Chechen forces described the conflict as a religious war and framed their possible intervention as a jihad, a battle of good versus evil in defense of Iran. The reporting has been echoed by a small number of pickup outlets, but has not appeared in Reuters, AP, or any Russian state media outlet that would normally carry a Kadyrov announcement of this scale. The claim lives inside the Iranian media ecosystem and has not crossed into verified territory, but it does not need to be true to be effective. The announcement is designed for two audiences. For Washington, the message is that a ground invasion of Iran could mean fighting forces aligned with a nuclear power. For Tehran, the message is that Iran is not alone. The Kadyrov angle matters because of what it implies, not because of what it confirms. Kadyrov's forces fought in Ukraine. They have been deployed as shock troops and security forces in Chechnya and beyond. They operate within Russia's broader military orbit, but their public messaging has often created ambiguity about where Kadyrov ends and Moscow begins. If Chechen units were to deploy to Iran, the question is whether that constitutes a Russian military intervention or a freelance operation by a regional warlord acting on his own initiative. The distinction is legally and strategically significant. Russia could claim it did not send troops while troops aligned with Russia arrive in Iranian territory. That ambiguity is the feature, not the bug. It would create the same kind of ambiguity seen when Chechen units appeared in Syria alongside Iran-aligned forces years ago. The timing of the Press TV report is not random. It arrives as the United States is actively deploying ground forces to the Middle East. The USS Tripoli and its accompanying force arrived in the region over the weekend, bringing thousands of Marines and sailors as the U.S. buildup intensified. Washington has been moving thousands of additional troops into the region, including 82nd Airborne elements and Marine forces, as options for possible ground missions are actively discussed. Officials familiar with the discussions have signaled that any mission under review would be more limited than a full-scale invasion. Rubio said Washington can achieve its objectives without sending large numbers of troops deep into Iranian territory. But the troops arriving are ground troops, and the 82nd Airborne is built for contested environments, not symbolic theater alone. Trump added fuel to the ground invasion speculation in an interview with the Financial Times published on March 30th. He said his favorite thing would be to take Iran's oil. He compared the idea to Venezuela, saying the United States would control oil resources indefinitely following leadership capture. He discussed the possibility of seizing Kharg Island, the country's main crude export hub, which handles roughly 90% of Iran's oil exports. "Maybe we take Kharg Island, maybe we do not," he said. "We have a lot of options. I do not think they have any defense. We could take it very easily." The language is designed to project overwhelming capability, but analysts have warned that capturing the island could sharply escalate the conflict and lead to significantly higher casualties for U.S. forces and regional partners. The Kharg Island question is the intersection of every thread in this war. The island handles Iran's oil revenue. Seizing it would cut Tehran's primary income source overnight. It would also place U.S. forces on Iranian sovereign territory for the first time in the war, turning an air campaign into a ground presence with huge escalation risks. Iran has repeatedly warned that any attempt to land on Kharg would be met with the most severe retaliation. A spokesperson for Iran's Parliamentary Energy Commission said via Tasnim that exports continue and the island is secure. The IRGC has said it has fortified the island. Trump says the U.S. could take it very easily. The gap between those two assessments is where the next phase of the war will be decided. And the Chechen deployment claim, landing on the same day as Trump's Kharg comments, is designed to make that gap feel wider than Washington wants it to be. Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi held a press conference that covered the diplomatic dimension with unusual clarity. He confirmed that proposals had reached Tehran through intermediaries, including Pakistan. He described them as 15 articles. He said they involved a large number of requests that are excessive, unrealistic, and illogical. He said Iran has not had any negotiations with America. He said the information conveyed from the U.S. is not evaluated as honest. The language is a rejection, but a specific one. Araghchi did not say Iran refuses to talk. He said the terms on the table are unacceptable. That leaves room for a counteroffer without admitting that negotiations are happening. It fits the dual-track picture that has emerged in recent days. Public denials on one side, persistent reports of indirect messaging on the other. Araghchi went further on the nuclear question. He referenced Iran's membership in the Non-Proliferation Treaty and asked what the point of membership is if Iran cannot benefit from its rights and is instead subjected to aggression. If membership is going to be just a name on paper, he said, what is the point? He confirmed Iran remains a member and is committed to its obligations. But the framing hints at a larger question over how long Tehran will see value in staying inside that treaty framework. The NPT question is the one that sits behind every other question in this conflict. Trump says the war is about preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Iran says the war is making its membership in the treaty that prevents proliferation feel worthless. Both sides are using the same document to justify opposite positions. Araghchi also issued a direct warning to Gulf states. He said it is very clear that the United States and the Zionist regime are using the facilities of regional countries to attack Iran. He invoked international law and Iran's inherent right to self-defense, saying those rights allow Iran to target the origin and source of the aggressions. He demanded that countries in the region prevent the US and Israel from using their territories and facilities to attack Iran in accordance with the principle of good neighborliness. The warning is not new, but it is more specific than previous versions. Araghchi is telling Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, and Kuwait by name that hosting US forces makes their territory a legitimate target under the legal framework Iran is claiming. Iranian officials have already claimed strikes or targeting tied to all four countries, and Araghchi's language reads like an effort to place that campaign inside a legal argument after the fact. The troop buildup tells a story that the diplomacy contradicts. Rubio says no ground troops are needed. Trump says maybe we take Kharg Island, maybe we do not. The 82nd Airborne is deploying. Marines have arrived on the USS Tripoli. Thousands of additional US troops, including ground-capable forces, are heading into the region as Washington expands its options. And the Secretary of State, when asked about military tactics, said he would refer the question to the Department of War. And the Department of War would probably say they cannot tell you. The only clear statement from Washington is that objectives will be achieved very, very soon. What those objectives are, how they will be achieved, and whether they require boots on Iranian soil are questions the administration is answering with troop deployments, not with words.
Mr. Secretary, those couple of weeks, how seriously is the United States considering deploying ground troops? And in those couple of weeks, what exactly will
I won't discuss military tactics. I don't think anyone in our system can talk to you about what we have planned or what we intend to do, and there's obvious reasons for it. But to the extent it has to do with like military tactics and plans, I would refer you to the Department of War, and the Department of War is probably going to tell you they can't tell you anything. So other than to say that we have objectives, I told you what those objectives are, and we are very confident that we are on the verge of achieving it very, very soon.
Russia's interest in the war is not abstract. From Moscow's perspective, high oil prices, diverted Western attention, and pressure on US stockpiles all work in Russia's favor. And the perception that Russia can project influence into a war it is not officially fighting adds another layer. The Chechen deployment claim, whether real or performative, serves all four of those interests simultaneously. It raises the cost of a ground invasion. It creates uncertainty about who US forces might face. It positions Russia as a player in a conflict it has officially stayed out of. And it gives Kadyrov a headline that reinforces his usefulness to the Kremlin. Press TV said it. Moscow has not confirmed it. The Chechen units have not moved. The claim is unverified. But on the same day, Trump discussed seizing an Iranian island. Iran rejected the peace proposal. 3,500 Marines arrived in the theater. And a foreign minister warned Gulf states that their territory is a legitimate target. The Chechen announcement did not create the ground invasion conversation. It entered a conversation that was already happening and added the one variable that no one in Washington has publicly planned for, the possibility that the enemy on the beach might not be Iranian. A Press TV claim about Chechen jihad fighters. A Financial Times interview about seizing an oil island. A foreign minister calling the peace offer excessive. Marines on the USS Tripoli. The 82nd Airborne packing. And a question that sits in every briefing room in Washington that no one has answered on camera. If the US lands on Kharg Island and encounters forces that are not Iranian, What happens next? The answer to that question is the reason the Chechen claim matters, even if the Chechens never board a plane.